Hey friends, welcome back to the library. I have with me today a friend of mine, Miss Annie. I'm super excited to be talking to you. We haven't chatted in a while, so this is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So tell me how you got started reading.
Well, I don't know for sure because I know, like, I've always been a reader. Funny story, back in kindergarten, I was mad because one little boy could read better than me. I've always kind of had that, and I've just always been reading. I think with college and kids, it took kind of a back burner.
Yeah.
So then I think probably 2022 or so was when I really got back into it. I've always read a book here or there, whatever, but nothing too crazy until about 2022, and then it went insane.
Did you see something that really caught your eye that pushed you further into what you're reading now?
Um, Not really. Um, I think it was a Scarlett St. Clair book that I picked up and read. And then I was talking to my cousin, and she was saying that she was starting to read and really liked reading now and everything. So we kind of piggybacked off of each other and gave each other recommendations and went from there.
Gotcha. So where do you find a lot of your recommendations now?
Um, a lot of them either come from friends or, and I should preface that with online friends. I have a couple friends in real life that read the same type of books, but most of them are online. So different Facebook groups, Instagram posts, friends in other groups that I'm in, even just going into the bookstore and seeing a pretty cover will grab my attention.
Pretty covers always reel me in.
Yes, yes.
Always. So, which of your book socials do you prefer? I know they're not actually book socials, but we use them that way.
Yeah. My Instagram, probably, that is my big page for books. It's where I do my reviews, where I post upcoming releases, where I've gotten any arcs, things like that. So definitely Instagram.
Yeah. I was talking to a couple other friends, and we were talking about how a lot of people are saying the Instagram for Bookstagram is not the same as it was in the past, 5 or 6 years, just since COVID and coming out of that. And then there's almost some mean girl energy surfacing. And I was like, it's kind of sad that it even has to be that way because at the end of the day, we're all readers. We're all just here to get through the story and read. Yeah.
Yep, definitely. I mean, I've seen some of that mean girl energy. I've been a part of the receiving end. Is that the right term?
Yeah.
Of some of that mean girl energy. I hope I haven't participated in it, at least not knowingly. But I think that if you have a group of predominantly women, you're gonna run into that no matter what. It's unfortunate. Because like you said, we're all just trying to read through these books and enjoy them, promote our authors, things like that. But I feel like it's just kind of part of the game at this point.
Yeah. It's sad.
It is. It is.
So I know at least one of them, but how many author teams are you on?
Let's see. I'm on Scarlett St. Clair. I'm on Daphne Elliott, Jenny Barra, Diana Roman, Ashley Muniz. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody, but yeah, 5 for sure.
So what does that look like as far as getting into the group and some of the requirements? Is it kind of the same all across the board, or do you see different?
For the most part, I think they're pretty similar. Um, they really ask you to post when they have upcoming books or like as you know with Daphne Elliott, she just had like kind of a rebranding of a series of books. So posting during that. With Scarlett's, there's not a whole lot of requirements outside of when she does have a new book coming out. She likes to have you promote them. I guess that's kind of the common theme, though, is just the promotion and getting the name out there and things like that. Half of them that I'm also on a permanent ARC team. So I'll get the ARCs for those books too, and then posting reviews and encouraging others to read them, things like that.
Yeah. I think what I love the most about Daphne's team is she's not like super strict. Like if you're not posting or you miss a couple, she's not going to come after you. Her PAs are not going to come after you. No one else on the team is going to come after you. Like it's just one of those, like, it's cool. And like for me, I redid my Instagram. So most of the time I'm not even actually posting on my feed. I'm sharing to my stories, but I'm also posting in my Facebook groups and on my Facebook story because I have a page for the blog. And even then, like I'm a permanent ARC too. And it's one of those, like, nobody's ever come to me because I didn't share something on my feed or anything like that. But I have had, I've seen some instances where people have like stated that if they didn't post so many times within a week or within a month or something, like that was a requirement for them on their team.
Yep. I was a part of one author team that was kind of like that. And there was just some different requirements. And I was like, I have a full-time job on top of this. This is just something I do for fun. And you're going to make me work. And I don't like that. So
it's different if I volunteer the work. Like if I'm saying, I have time to do this and I go on my own time and decide to do it. But if you're telling me there's a minimum requirement, like I was working with someone on their team. I don't know what happened to this author, but I was on her team and I ended up being her PA for a little bit. And it was like, because we would ask, hey, at least post once in the 2 weeks prior and the 2 weeks after release, just so that all of your followers, because she was still really small. I mean, she maybe had 100 people that were avidly reading her books regularly. And people on the team weren't doing that. They weren't turning their ARCs in ever. Like we would send it to them and they just wouldn't reach out, wouldn't say anything. And it had to become to that point where she was like, all right, listen, like we're going to have to put some requirements down. And we ended up like, we had not even a fourth of the people that were on the team in the beginning stay.
Wow.
After we had to put those requirements, like you have to post once a month something about one of her books, because she had 4 or 5, and it was like, your team is your ideal job to be here on the team is to be promoting when things are coming out. And she was one of those fast paced, like she could put a book out in less than 6 months. So it was like, it's not like we're asking you to be posting the same thing every month. It was like, she's going to have new teasers. She's going to have, new covers coming. She's working on 4 books at once. So like when she finishes writing the other, she goes right into the next. So it was like, I was working 5 or 6 hours after I got home from my day job, just going in and editing part of her beta stuff. And then on top of being the PA and like organizing giveaways and all of that stuff. And it was like, we're putting in so much work and nobody else is giving. And then all of a sudden she just dropped off the face of the earth. So I don't know, all of my work was for nothing, but
what a bummer. Well, and then they made changes with the whole Instagram thing, and which is good in some ways because of AI and everything that's coming out. They're cracking down on that and want more original content and things like that. So I've had to really, thankfully, I can kind of push out probably a low quality post, but I can do one on Canva in like 2 minutes. So it's still not a huge ask because, again, these authors are not asking for, you need to post, every week and this and that and blah, 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 blah. They don't have all these rules. So it makes it easier and it makes me want to do it.
Yeah, and I think part of that also helps when the authors have specific people that create the edits for them. And they're like,
Yes.
hey, you can use these, or, the author likes to do it. They have their PAs, that kind of thing. And that was one of the hardest things is like when, because I'm another beta reader currently, and she was like, hey, do you think you could go through the books you've read and like pick out some quotes and make some edits? Like, they don't have to be like, they can be low quality. Like, it's cool. We just need something to promote. And I
Right.
spent 2 days like fingering through her books. And I'm like, okay, what about this stood out to me? And I'm like, I've already read these, so I don't remember from the first time.
Uh-huh.
And everybody else is
Yes.
using them. And I'm like, they're really not that great, but it's fine.
Right.
It was just like, I'm trying not to stress because everyone's reposting my edits, and then she put them on her Instagram, and I was like, oh.
That's not so great. Maybe don't do that. Yeah,
I'm
no.
like, I love it. I love that you love it, but ma'am, this looks very. Yikes.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. I
Yeah.
forget that. That people like Daphne. Daphne's been writing for years, and she has this really well established team, and she makes the edits, and she's got people who make edits for her,
Mhm.
and they have a really great system where they provide all of that for her. But if you're with someone who hasn't been around for that many years or hasn't been publishing for that many years, they never had an established team, and you're part of that first setup team, it's a lot going into. Like, they're not necessarily
Yeah.
asking a lot of you, but the author's under a lot of stress because they're pretty much doing it alone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. Like, luckily, I think
Mm.
all of the groups that I'm in are pretty well established. Like, they've all got PAs and things like that. And those, like, I can't even imagine that job. And I mean, it would be a dream come true in some cases, but at the same time, it's like, I don't think I want that stress. Like, I love you guys, but maybe not so much.
Yeah. It would be one of those, it's probably not something I would volunteer my personal time to do again.
Yeah.
But if I could find a way to manage it as an actual, like, paying job
Right.
that I could do at least part time for when I'm not busy, then I might consider it. But like you
Yeah.
said, it's a lot of stress.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not just because you're not just managing someone else's like writing, you're managing their entire brand, which,
Right.
if you're thinking about it, massive companies have teams of 5, 10, sometimes 15 people to do, and you're trying to do it as a one person show.
Yeah. Yeah. Not my cup of tea, I don't think.
There's a lot. Now it works for very type A people. I can see
Right.
it. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not completely type A. I like a little chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a hard enough time keeping my own life together. Don't ask me to keep somebody else's life together.
That part right there. But do you have like an all-time favorite, always recommend? I know it's a hard
It's
question,
hard
and I'm
because
sorry.
it is. It is. So I I'm one of those people that even like my most favorite book, it's not for everybody, and I totally get that.
Yeah.
So even when I recommend things, I'm like, well, what are you into?
Mm-hmm.
Because like one of my all-time favorites is Diana Roman. She writes male books.
Yeah.
So not everybody's into that. So I can't really recommend that. Or like Scarlett St. Clair, she's one of my top favorite always going to be authors, but not everybody likes um they're not all fairy tale retellings, but like the Greek mythology and things like that.
Yeah.
People don't always like that. Um, One book that I would say probably, oh gosh, that's tough. I'm just trying to like look at my books and think. I guess something I would probably recommend would be like Becca Mac.
Mm-hmm.
Consider Me. I think that's a good like dip your toes in, not quite like it's spicy, but not super spicy.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's sports, but it's not super sporty. Like maybe something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm I'm there with you on that one. I really like Becca Mac. I've got
Yeah.
one that I don't know if you've read, but I want to tell you about it. And I've got to find it because I was not prepared, but I just thought of it. It's not in this year's, it's in last year's.
Mm.
Last year's reads. Let me see if I can. Eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had somebody ask me the other day for recommendations for a hockey romance, and I'm like, okay,
Mm,
we need to like back it up a minute. Like what else are you looking for? Are you looking for really sporty? Are you looking for male female? Are you looking for a little on the crossing swords side? Are you looking for like where are we going with
yes.
this? Because I have
Yes.
like 20 different recommendations for you.
Okay, so I recommended it to Meredith not too long ago. But I don't know if you saw it. It's called Him. It's by Serena Bowen and Elle
Oh,
Kennedy.
yes. Yes. I love that book. Oh my gosh. That was actually my first male book that I read. No, that was my second one. Sorry, my second one. Um,
It was my first exclusively male. I had dipped my toes in it with
sure.
some reverse harem,
Yep.
because every once in a while that happens. But it was my first exclusively male, and I was actually shocked because I didn't think I was like, you know what? I've never even attempted to read more of this, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it could be interesting, and I
Yeah.
went for it.
Yeah. Well, that was last summer, I think it was. I asked for like, okay, I need my first male. What should I read? I don't even know where to start. And
Mm-hmm.
Top Secret, same authors, but that was my first one. I was like, okay, well, I'm hooked. It was so good and so beautifully written. And yeah,
Good to know. I will add it.
yeah, that's a
I'm
good
gonna
one.
just leave that up on my Goodreads.
Right.
I hit this not quite of a slump, but I'm in this weird situation of I went really hot and heavy last year and plowed through a bunch of books, and then I got sick at the end of the year, and I've just slowed way down, and nothing's really catching my attention all that much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not quite burnout, but it feels a lot like burnout.
Yep. Yep.
And
I've been
so
there.
it's hard too because I'm like, I have probably well over 300 books in
Yeah.
my room behind me. And I
Yep.
know I have a good 2,000 probably on my Kindle. And I'm adding to it every day
Oh, yeah.
because there are books that go for free on sale on Kindle, Amazon
Mm-hmm.
every day. But it's just nothing like I'll see it and I'll be like, oh, that'd be interesting. And then it just,
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's hard. I know I've gone through a couple periods where it's like I pick up a book. If it doesn't hook me within the first few chapters, I just put it down. I never say, I shouldn't say I never say, they're not DNFs yet.
yeah,
Because it's like, I'm going to come back to it. This is not the vibe right now. I need something different.
yeah.
Um, and I had that happen not too long ago where I picked up like 5, 6 different books and just none of them were grabbing me. And it's like, I have this time. I want to read. This is kind of my me time, my unwind time.
Mm-hmm.
I need something.
Yeah.
I don't even remember which book it was that finally pulled me out of it, but I'm like, okay, now I'm good. Now I can pick up any other books and read. And
Mm-hmm.
I usually try to go
Well,
with something different than my usual reads.
yeah. I find that novellas help, but um just right now, it's not like I have the Kindle app on my phone, and I have a Kindle, and I have a Nook,
Mm-hmm.
and I have all of these books behind me, and I just got 2 more this morning. They delivered last night, and I didn't know. I checked my mailbox, and I was like, "Oh, look at that!" And it's actually These Violent Delights. It's that
Oh,
duet, um, and they delivered this morning, and I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I'm like, I'm probably not going to touch them anytime soon.
yeah. 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 It's I also am a rep for I don't know, she does bookish stuff and stickers and shirts and whatever. So the last couple months, she signed with 2 new authors. So I've been reading those books, and that's been
Mhm.
helping a lot too. I find I can just kind of grab one of those, and then it's like I feel better supporting those authors because I've already read
Yeah.
their books, and I know like I can sit here and, oh yeah, buy this merch, buy this stuff. But if I haven't read it, I'm not going to feel a connection to it really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I I think part of it was because I picked up a really long trilogy.
Mm,
And it's a slow burn. It's a reverse harem story. But the slow burn is so slow that I was like nearly a third of the way into the second book in the trilogy, and not all of the characters had one, because it's a fantasy, not all of the characters had serviced themselves as potential mates.
mm,
And then, like, she's in the female main character is in this like back and forth with one of them, like, I want to, but I can't because I'm technically married, even though the marriage isn't like good for me, and I want out of it. And then I've got kids, so I don't want to do that to their dad. And then
right.
there's just a lot of back and forth. And I was finally like, I can no longer do this. She cannot make up her mind. We're almost halfway through the entire trilogy. Nothing is happening.
Yep.
And after that, I was just like, I don't want to pick up anything that's more than like literally 200 pages.
Yeah. Yep.
Because at that point, I'm going to spend weeks trying to get through it. And I feel like I'm slowly trudging through mud with boots that are like way too big for my feet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see, I think I'm on book 4 of a 6 book series.
Hmm.
And I've been on book 4 for 6 months or so. I just kind of pick it up in between, read a couple chapters. And it's not that it's bad. It's not that I don't enjoy it. It's more of, to the point that what else is going to go wrong?
Mm-hmm.
It's just one thing after another. And when are they all just going to get their happy ending and all of this? And
Yep.
it's like, oh, come on.
Yeah. I think that's partially why I'm so afraid to start Throne of Glass,
Yeah.
because it is so big. And I'm sure my listeners are probably tired of hearing this, but it's just one of those, like, there are so many of them. And one, her stories typically have a lot of characters.
Yeah.
So I've already finished Akatar, and I just know going into having a series that big that, like, there are going to be a lot of characters. There's probably going to be a lot of world building. There's probably going to be a lot of back and forth. And I just don't know that mentally I could do it. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm like,
Yeah. I have not dipped my toes into her writing at all. Part of it was like, I have this thing where the really hyped books, I'm like, nope,
mm-hmm.
nope, not going to read them, not going to read them. And then now it's like, it just keeps growing and growing. And like, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to start. Just
Yeah.
not going to do it. Maybe someday I'll eventually jump in, but that and Zodiac Academy I haven't jumped into yet because I'm like, there's so many.
I want to so bad. I want to.
Yeah.
Because I want to know. I want to be in on the jokes and the reels, and I
Right.
want to understand
Yeah.
them. But And Zodiac Academy is already 9 strong.
Yeah, I think so. But then there's like little books in between, and there's like
Mm-hmm.
offshoots, and like I don't even know. I'm like I can't do it right now.
At some point, enough is enough. The
Yeah,
story has to be over.
yep, yep. Definitely can get to that point too.
And that's kind of how I feel about Sarah's stuff. Is like, okay, how many times are you going to write? Because, like, this is 3 series, and apparently they all intertwine at some point in Crescent Cities. And
Right.
I'm like, okay, how many times are you going to keep bringing up these past characters? Like, I understand that this is a multiverse situation for you, but at some point, like, those first 2 in Crescent Cities are always already so thick.
Yep.
So I'm like, how much bigger are you going to keep writing? Like, how much bigger are you going to print these in, and how far
Right.
is it going to go? Because she
Yep.
was like, even though Crescent City is technically done, it doesn't have to be done. She said that in
Hmm.
an interview. And we
Yeah.
know it's with Akatar. And so I'm like, okay,
Yep.
listen, sister,
Might be time to graduate and move away.
as much as I love that story, we're
Yeah.
not going to keep beating a dead horse with a stick.
Yep. Yep.
So we went with the what you always recommend, and we had a kind of, somewhat, sort of. Do you have a book that you would like never recommend? Just
Oh
something
my
that you
gosh.
absolutely did not.
Yes. I can never remember who writes it, and you're probably going to hate me for it because everybody says that it's such a good book. And I will tell you why I hated it. If I can find it here. Oh, it is Pen Pal by J.T. Geisinger.
Okay. Now tell me why. I haven't read it, but I know it's extremely hyped. So,
Yes, yes. So I really did like it. I loved the whole book. It's got so much spice, and like it was a good book. And then the last 2 chapters, 3 chapters killed it. Absolutely killed it for me. And I was like, oh, this is a 5-star read. This is great. This is great. And then I got to the ending. I'm like, nope, 2 stars for you. Like, I can't. It ruined it.
all right.
Absolutely ruined it for me. Like, it almost made the whole thing like a joke. I'm like, but these
Mm.
are some serious things going on here. And now you've just made it something completely different. So yeah,
Okay.
that's my spiel. I know people love it, and I'm gonna probably get hate, but oh yeah,
That's fine. It is what it is. Everybody's entitled to their opinions. And now
yes,
you make me want to go read it just because I want to know what happens.
right, right. It's one of those things where you kind of, and maybe this is my own brain because it like totally came out of left field, and I like anticipating what's gonna happen,
Mm.
but. Ugh, it just made me so mad. The story was so good, and then there it went.
That sucks. I hate when that happens.
Yeah, yeah.
I think my I would never recommend book is probably Mercy by Jodi Picoult. Mainly
Okay.
because it's not that I don't like Jodi Picoult, but she already writes about really touchy subjects.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the book itself has some cheating in it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to the end of it, it's basically like the man is still envisioning himself with the woman that he cheated on his wife with throughout their entire relationship. And I was just like, why is this happening? Why
Right.
did you continue to write it like this? Like, if that was what you thought that the characters needed, why didn't you just separate them?
Yeah.
And that was the one book it took me well over 6 months to finish, because I
Oh
would read a
gosh.
couple of chapters and put it down, pick it up, read a couple chapters and put it down. And it was never like a lot of people will say, "Oh, you should have DNF'd it." And I'm like, it was never one of those, like, I wasn't enjoying the story, but I could only take so much at a time,
Yep.
because I would become disinterested with where it was, because it was like it would pick up and then it would slow down, and then it would pick up
Yeah.
and then it would slow down, and it was like, this is already, because I mean, it's also a murder mystery,
Okay.
or it has like that kind of vibe to it. So it was like one of
Yeah.
those, I want to know who did it, and if it's not really a murder mystery. It was one of those like assisted suicide things.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So they're like, do we actually charge him? Do we not charge him? So it technically
Yeah.
is, because it's like, do you feel like what you did was wrong? And he's like, well, no, because that's what she wanted. It was, it would have been
Right.
no different if she had done it herself. And they're like, well,
Yeah.
actually, it would have, So it was one of those, like, I wanted to figure out what happens to that side, because that
Yeah.
was the main male character's, like, cousin. But he was the sheriff of the town. So it was like the cousin went to them and turned himself in. But it was like he's trying to go through that, and at the same time, like, he's testing his marriage. And it was
Yeah.
low-key chaos. And so I wanted to figure out what happened with the
Right.
cousin, because I was like, does he get charged? Does he not get charged? But then it was like, I know he's not the main character, but he really could have been.
Yeah.
Like, at this point in the story, he could have been. Like, that was the
gosh.
whole, yeah. The only other book I read by her was Small Great Things, and that one touches on racial inequality in the workplace, and hate crimes against blacks and that kind of thing. And so it was one of those, like, I'm like, this is a really great story, but I have so many like hangups on recommending it, because I don't want to recommend it to the wrong person, or it gets seen by the wrong person and someone take that the wrong way. And I'm like, I'm not saying that it's a great story because, the KKK is involved. I'm just saying it's a great story because of how the female main character overcame that.
Yeah.
How she was able to triumph through that and set an example for her kids, because that's never something that I want anybody to experience. But it was like, I have a lot of qualms about trying to recommend that to somebody.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's some books where it's hard to recommend. Like, it's such a good book, but I don't know if this would be good. I don't know. What are you going to think about me if I recommend it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
Because it was like, what are you going to think about me if I tell you it's a great book and you read it and you're like, no, this is messed up. Why would you ever read that? Why would someone write that? And I'm just like, well, it's an overcoming story. Like,
yeah. Yep.
But no. And then I have, honestly, I don't know that I could choose and always recommend. Yeah. I try to answer the same questions I ask, but I'm like, at this point, I'm looking around my shelves. I'm like, probably not.
Right? It's so hard. There are just so many good books.
Okay. We'll do it this way. If you're looking for like motorcycle romance, Wreck and Ruin by Emma Slate.
Oh.
She's got a whole series. It's really good. You can also do Wreck Me by A.R. Rose. That's great. With the sports romance, I'll probably stick with Consider Me by Becca Mack. That's a good one. It's a really good one. Or you can do Double Pucked, and that's Lauren Blakely.
Yes, that was a good one.
And then if we want to do fantasy, if you're into dark fantasy, I would say The Sacrifice by Emily Shore. Or Tethered by Elena Galea. And that one I recommended to, I don't remember, I've bought almost the entire series for someone in one of our book groups.
Oh, funny.
Because they put it on their wish list and I was just like, you need the first one.
Yep.
And then the next time it came around and I was like, well, It's still on the list. Here's the second one.
Here we go.
And I love that. That was probably that one solidified. Like, I've always been a Twilight fan.
Yeah.
I'm so much a vampires and werewolves girly. Like, that was my entire. That is my entire AO3 and Wattpad. Like, from high school, that was my whole thing.
Yep.
And so now looking at this, I'm like, it's that vampires, fallen angels, forced proximity, forced marriage. I mean, just the entire. The male's mother is the villain in the entire trilogy.
Well, we're just going to have to add that one onto the TBR. Because
So
that sounds good.
Yes, I and because I read that, I was interested in getting into Tracy Wolf's Crave series.
Oh, yes.
So I started Crave, and I did Crave in audiobook, okay? And I was doing it through Libby. And then I was like, all right, well, how about I try to do the others? And I can't.
Yeah.
I have the entire hardback series down there.
Yep. I have not read the final book yet. I need to, but at this point, it's like I almost need to go back and reread all of them. It's been so long. But it's so good. Like, it's truly one of those young adult
teenage angst.
Yes. It's just so good. And like, yes.
And honestly, I'm terrified because there are so many books, and I did not want the brother to come back.
But wait.
I was like, he could just go. I like the original coupling. And I'm like, this better not be like a Tanlin situation where I don't like him by the end of the series.
Yeah, just wait. Just wait. Like, that's...
could this possibly be a I choose?
I don't remember. Like I said, it's been so long since I read them, so I can't really give any spoilers. But you did see the brother coming back.
Yeah, at the very end, she's like stuck in herself.
Yes,
and he's in like the ether with her.
That's right. Oh my gosh. No, it like, there's so much more for you to get through. But they are so long. I know that. I did them all on Kindle, and then I had to have the hardcovers because I needed trophies.
So I actually had the paperback of Crave. I picked it up because there was a special edition that they released not too long ago, and I didn't realize the entire series wasn't in paperback yet.
Yeah.
So then I'm walking around and I'm like, okay, where are the rest of them? And they're all in hardback. So now I went to Readers Take Denver and I just bought the entire hardback set.
Yeah.
While I was there, which failed because I didn't even get to see Tracy, but it's fine.
Oh.
That was chaos.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was actually just talking to my husband about it this morning.
Yeah, it was bad. But yeah, I just, like, once I realized that I wasn't going to see most of the people that I wanted to, I was just like, all right, we're going to go ahead and ship these home.
Yeah.
It's fine. I still got the books. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I have the entire hardback series and then just one paperback.
Yeah, it's so good though. Oh my gosh. Again, like, I say it's so good, but you have to like the young adult, teenage angst type of thing, because there's some people who just cannot get into that. And I'm one where it's like, I need all that romance. I need the spice and everything. And they're not, I mean, they're kids, so it's really not spicy, but there's a love story in there, and you know, who do I love, who do I not love, who do I date, you know, so there's the romance in there too. But yeah, like, you definitely have to you have to understand that it's young adult.
As with in most, that's just like anytime you read a fantasy, there is a 50% chance that you will not get any actual spice. You will get the
Yeah.
intimacy, you will get, the romance, but you won't necessarily get the spice. And you may even get closed door, but it's not,
Yeah.
it's just kind of one of those. It is what it is.
Yep.
If it was labeled as a fantasy, you have to go in expecting just fantasy.
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
Although Tracy does have another one that's called Starbringer, and I
Yeah.
have it, and I'm actually probably going to start it soon.
Yeah.
I say that
Starbringer,
probably.
and then wasn't there another one she just released too?
Maybe
Um,
she just released
Sweet
Cherish not too
Nightmare.
long ago. Sweet Nightmare.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be a novel, or is it supposed to be like a second to?
I think it's a series, and it is another young adult. But yeah, because it says part of the Calder Academy.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. As much as I love books, I would prefer an interconnected standalone than a series.
Yeah.
Mainly just because I want to be able to read them in whatever order I can stomach them
Sure. Sure.
rather than.
Yeah.
Nobody hate me for this, please. It just is what it is. I would prefer. Because, like, technically, Daphne's is interconnected and it doesn't have to be read in order. But, like,
Right.
if you don't, you miss pieces of the puzzle.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
And so, like, that's okay with me. Those, and they're not, like, they're the perfect length for me.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So, and I feel like I get enough of the mystery, almost thriller vibes underneath,
Yep.
but the main story is like the romance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I am definitely a series girly. Because I always want to know more about them.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's only one book and it's done and there's no thoughts of another book, I'm like, but what's going to happen in 5 years? Like, I need to know what the future holds for them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of backwards because even though I love series, I never want them to end.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like we've said before, you get to a point where it has to end.
Yeah. That's just like H.D. Carlton and Haunting and Hunting. Like,
Yeah.
she's had to reiterate so many times, like, this is a duet and a duet only. Like,
Yeah.
they will show up in other places across the multiverse, but it is not their story any longer.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to be part of other people's story. Where's Molly was amazing.
I haven't read it yet. I have it, but I haven't read it yet.
And I'm so excited for Sibby's duet because who doesn't love a little psycho?
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Satan's Affair was. It was great. It made me wonder why I wasn't a little psycho, and then I remembered those things are not legal. So,
Yeah.
but as my husband always says, if you have enough money, everything is legal just with a price.
True. True.
It just comes with a price.
Yeah. So the question should be, why do we not have more money?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. That's just it. I could selfie pics, but I don't think that would be great for.
Yeah. You know, there's a market for everything.
There is. There is. Not too long ago, somebody was selling farts in a jar.
Yeah,
So,
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? I missed my calling somewhere. I don't know. Would have liked to have made some money somewhere.
Oh my goodness. Have you read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame?
I have not. That's another one
of
I'm
those
kind of
hype
intimidated.
things?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like, it was so hyped, and then I feel like people kind of forgot about it. And then Iron Flame came out, so it got hyped again.
Mm-hmm.
And I broke down and I was like, okay, fine, I'll get the first one. And yeah, I still haven't read it. It's been sitting on my shelf.
Story of my life. Everything just sits on my shelf for ages.
Yep. I've been trying to read more of my physical books and doing challenges, and it's been nice. It's been good.
Yeah.
I still end up reading them on Kindle because most of them are on KU, but I'm reading my physical books.
Yeah. It counts.
It counts. I can move them from one shelf to the other, so it absolutely counts.
And you still have the trophies.
Exactly.
I was just telling someone the other day that I knew I needed to stop buying books, but it doesn't count if somebody buys them for me. But I
Yeah.
kind of hurt myself in that situation because I came back from Denver with almost an entire 5 shelf bookcase worth of books. And it still doesn't count if other people buy them for me, but I'm running out of room.
Uh-huh.
And if I buy another bookshelf, my husband's going to have an attitude.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, not that it's encroaching in any of his space, but
Yeah, they get an attitude about it.
I'm like, you know what? I don't get an attitude about how many freaking motorcycle parts you have in the
Right?
garage.
Right?
I don't get an attitude about how many different versions of the same exact tool you have.
Yes.
This is when you have a husband who has mechanic hobbies.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine isn't too mechanically inclined, but the number of tools and random pieces of wood and my oldest kid is mechanically inclined, so now we're dealing with that. And yeah. Yep. So I'm just like, you know what? My books are fine. You don't need to talk about them.
Right. Yeah. What did they ever do to you? Oh, goodness. So tell me about some of the challenges you've been doing. Is it just like the A to Z, or do you have like your own system set up?
No, so one of the Facebook group that me and Meredith run,
Mhm.
um, she has been putting together these TBR challenges each month. It's been a couple months now, just with different prompts.
Okay.
Might be, like a sunset on the cover or a yellow cover
Oh,
or
I
a
see one
ball
of
on the
those.
cover or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing. I just kind of, once she puts out those prompts, I look through my books, see, well, so I'm trying to challenge myself to read a bunch of books because we're going to Vegas too in October.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to challenge myself to read books by those authors. So I look through that stack first and see
Okay.
if any of them match. And then I look through the rest of my books.
Yeah.
And then this month being Pride Month, I've been, what's on my TBR is mostly MM books or, okay, no, it is mostly MM books. But I did say I might read my first Sapphic too. So I haven't, I started, gosh, I can't even remember what it was. I started one and then it just wasn't fitting what I was going through at that moment. So I have to find it again or pick out something different. And yeah.
Yeah. I forget that other people really don't read a lot outside of traditional romance.
Yeah.
Because when I say I read everything, I mean I actually read everything. Like it does
Yeah.
not matter to me. I loved Mad Honey. It was a great
Mm.
book. It has a transgender female.
Oh, okay.
She was a great character. I
Yeah.
loved the way it was written. All of it. I'll read Sapphic. I'll read Mel Mel. I'll read, thruples.
Mm-hmm.
Reverse harems. It literally. I read self help for work and business for work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I say just about anything, I mean I will give it a shot.
Have you read Riches to Riches by Ames Mills?
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh. So good. So good. There's 2 books. Well, there's more books in the series, but it's a duet and then it follows like another um group is probably the right term. But yes, it is so good. The first book, like, I couldn't get through it fast enough. It was so good. The second book, like, by the ending, I was like, oh, I wanted a little bit more from this or that or the other thing. But so good. And it's basically like the one female main character, and then there's 5 guys or 6 guys. Might be 6 guys.
Ooh.
I'm drawing a blank. But like, she's with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are times when these two go off and these two go off and these two go off, or,
Mm-hmm.
lots of love
Yes.
going on, and it's great. Really, really good book, though. Definitely recommend that one.
All right. I mean, just all right. Goodreads.
Yeah.
Doing everything. So, is that what you use to track your books? Goodreads.
Kind of. That's what I use for, like, to track my read books.
Mm-hmm.
To be read, I feel like it's not real accurate at this point, because I've had Goodreads for many, many years. So there's books on there that I'm like, I am never going to read this. Why did I even put this on there, or whatever? Mm-hmm. So I go mostly by what's on my shelves and everybody's recommendations every day.
Gotcha. I feel like I want to stop using Goodreads because I like Bookmori.
Yeah.
I really like the way that and I wanted to try the TBR shelf where it actually shows like a actual shelf.
Yeah.
It's so cute. However, Goodreads is connected to my Kindle.
Exactly. They make it so easy.
So I think what I'm probably going to do is I'm thinking for the rest of the year, I'll most likely just use Goodreads to keep up with what I've read on my Kindle. And then I'll use my Bookmori, like if I forget anything, and then I'll use my Bookmori to actually log my physical. And at the end of each month, I'll go back through and make sure that I logged all of my Kindles too.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I know I've forgotten to add on physical books, or my ARCs, like, they don't end up on Goodreads. I'm like, but you're supposed to, because Kindle. Mm-hmm. I like the automatic thing.
Yeah, that's what sucks with the ARCs is like when you're trying to read through and go do it, like, one, there are so many places that they ask you to review, and two, it doesn't automatically add up, like, update on your Goodreads, so then you have to go back and actually.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do this, because my brain is not going to tell me to remind myself to go in and write down something like the people who go in and write down physical pages reviews. I'm like, how?
Mm-hmm. No,
because I'm reading so many at once.
Yeah. Yep. If I don't do a review right away, I'm not going to, because I don't remember. As soon as I put that book down, I don't even know what happened. I remember little bits, but for the most part, it's like, what was that book about? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. They did something. I don't remember exactly what, but
there was some spice. There was some unaliving. I don't know, maybe.
There might have been an adventure. Who knows at this point? I'm looking. Oh, so I posed this question to almost everyone because I want to know. How do you organize your shelf? So I know you said read and unread.
Yeah. Yep. So I have one bookshelf that's all of my read physical books, and I put on there by author. So there's my series, my whatever, different authors. My TBR shelves, obviously by series or author. But then I've done it a couple different ways where I've had like one shelf where it was all dark romance, mafia romance, things like that. And I do still have one shelf in the whole big shelf that's all of my books. But it's kind of gotten jumbled, and it's like, well, these ones are kind of similar, these ones are not. Or like when you get those random stacks of books that show up on your doorstep and you don't have anywhere to put them, so you just kind of shove them on there. Mm-hmm. Hope they don't fall off. And then I've got my book cart that I try to put on my monthly TBRs. Yeah. So those challenges and things like that, I'll stack full of that. But it's kind of a mess right now. There's not really a major rhyme or reason to it, except that this is where they fit. So, yeah.
That's where I am too. I have one little cube shelf that's not full, but the majority of the rest of them are. And I got to the point where like I'm trying to keep all of my special editions in one place.
Yeah.
So that's why the little cube shelf is not full yet. However, the question was, so if you're reading a book that's like Verity, where it's both thriller, but it's written by a romance, and it's got romance in it, but it's not like majorly romance for the plot. How would you, if you were to organize your shelves by genre, where would you put it? Like, would you put it with the rest of her books in the romance category because she's a romance author, or would you put it with a thriller?
I think I would have to put it with the rest of her books because it's by the same author. I would, because that's how most of my books are organized, are by author. Mm-hmm. You know, it might not necessarily fit the same trope, but yeah, I think I would have to keep her with the rest of them.
Yeah. At one point when I first started, I had all of them alphabetized by last name and author. And then I realized that wasn't going to work for me because I grew so fast.
Yeah.
And now they're just like thrown on there wherever I can get them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know how people do the color shelves.
No, they're so pretty, but I would not be able to find anything.
That and all of my author stuff would be separated. Series would be separated.
Yeah, it would be chaos. Too much chaos for me.
It also looks like my shelves would be very black heavy.
Yeah. I think I've got one. I could do like a full shelf that's probably all black covers.
And then I'm like, how, because it's always the people who have those really long walls and they've got the corners where they've got like 6 or 7 tall shelves to the ceiling. And I'm like, how do you have that many books?
Right. Totally jealous. Life goals.
How much money did you spend on all of those books?
Right. Yeah.
How are you not in debt?
Yeah. Right. Ugh.
I mean, if there was something to really go into that much debt for, I would, books, but...
Right. Trying to keep myself somewhat in line.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to have to deal with that attitude.
Exactly.
Oh, goodness. Do you have an auto-buy author?
A couple. So, Scarlett St. Clair, S.J. Tilley, and Diana Roman.
I have a couple from S.J. Tilley that I picked up while in Denver, and I've read one book from the 70-something I got in Denver.
Yeah.
I went all out. I knew going that if I did not allow myself to go as I pleased, and I did a lot of pre-orders for the year prior, so a lot of it
Mm-hmm.
was spread out. It wasn't like I dropped a couple thousand all at once.
Right. Yeah.
But there was very much I went into it knowing I was coming home to fill an entire shelf, and most of them have just sat there. I
Yeah.
still am processing,
Yeah.
maybe because of the chaos.
Yeah. I can imagine.
And it
And
makes me terrified to go to other book cons. Like, Angie went
yeah,
to Love in Las Vegas last year and she was like, it was great. It was amazing. And I'm like, I'm sure it was, but
right.
it was not my experience. So now I'm like, I don't know if I want to go to any others. And after I got my home, my husband was like, I don't know that I would want you to go back to that
Right.
one. And I'm like, well, that one's probably not going to happen again. But
Yeah, definitely. And I think it was hard for those people too who went to Denver and then what was it like 2 weeks, 3 weeks later was Chicago.
mm-hmm.
I would have been a little hesitant to go. Well, and I think right after, I think the
A
following weekend was a
Polycon.
Polycon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There
So
were a
yeah,
lot of authors and people who were going straight from Denver to a Polycon.
yeah, that would have been really hard for me, I think. And even hearing everything that happened in Denver, it really kind of spun because me and Meredith are going to Vegas together.
Mm-hmm.
So it really kind of spun us out too, like how much of a disaster is this going to be?
Yeah.
But everything we've heard about this group, they do great. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping, and I know people who went to Chicago and it was a great time. I know people who went to Vegas last year and it was a great time. So it's like, I think we're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Well,
I
and
don't even
there's another group. There were a group of girls that were there, that were putting together their own group outside of RTD, that were low key, like under the table advertising it while they were there. And they were
know.
like,
Sure.
hey, our Facebook group, we're going to be putting something together smaller than this. We're going to keep the crowds, at a more manageable pace. It's still in the works, but we'd love if you, look into it. And they finally got everything set up to go for September of next year. And I told my husband, I was like, I told you about this when I came home. And I was like, I'm a little hesitant, not necessarily because of like who it is, but just the fact of like it's going back to Denver.
Right.
And setting up the travel to get to Denver in the first place 2 years ago, was kind of stressful in its own way because I knew I couldn't stay there. So I had to figure out, am I driving? Am I renting a car? Am I just going to be here the entire time? What is that cost going to look like? How am I going to feed myself the entire time? Because,
Right.
the RTD team did not have any of that worked out for us.
Nope.
And so I told him, I was like, the best thing that I can see so far is that for this new group, they have breakfast and lunch options built in as part of it. There's more signing time, and it's like 2 full days of signing, like start to stop. You break for lunch and then you go right back in there to the same section. And I was like, and I think what stands out to me the most is that they included like meals.
Yeah.
I was like, now the price is about the same as, it's $50 cheaper. It's $250. So it's $50 cheaper than what we paid for RTD. And he was like, but your stay is not included and you also have to do with your flight. And I was like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
However, like I'm looking at, and then I'm like, why is it that these two events have such high price tags? And I've seen something like There's one or two between Dallas, Grapevine, San Antonio, in Texas, and then Vegas last year was like $70, I think.
I think this year Vegas was like I think it was like 173 after taxes and everything.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, why is it that one is so steep? Like why are these two
Yeah.
so steep for what you're getting versus the rest of them? Like there was one local last December. And when I say local, I mean like within an hour and a half of me in a really
Mhm.
small town. And there were maybe 30 authors there. And I paid like $5 or $10 to get in.
Nice.
It was nothing.
Yeah.
And like I paid more for a book when I was there than I did for my
Mhm.
admission. And I was like, now this is
Yeah.
kind of what we're thinking here. Like, so I'm just kind of wondering, like, I understand that you have fees and stuff to be paid whenever you're doing this, but how is it that you've got places like this that, and Vegas that can have these not as steep prices, and then these two that are in Denver have these, $300 range price tickets?
Right. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, it reads red flag to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, we've got one that's local again, like it's 4 hours from me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the first year that they're going to do it. Is it this year? Or was it next year? Next year. Um, and like I was waiting for information and authors and everything, and then price of tickets, because it's like I'm not just going to commit to something without knowing who's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it's a first time deal. Like I don't know who you're going to have,
Yeah.
and the tickets are like $350. And I'm like, okay, that is stupid expensive. And then you have to pay
Mm-hmm.
extra to go to like a tea party thing with the authors and like all of this. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense at all, because I mean, there's not as many authors as like Vegas or
Mm-hmm.
even Denver. Um, and it's the first year. They're all fantasy authors. So that I was like, I think there was one name I recognized on there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, like I would love to go to a local one, but you don't have anybody on there that I want to see, and it's really expensive. So
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. And it's made me want to look into doing something local as well, but then I'm like, how do I convince authors to
Right.
come? Because and that was part of the thing. It was like, okay, what authors are, big enough to where I feel like people would want to come and see them, you know, and I think part of it is that they're choosing to host these at places like the Gaylord.
Yeah.
That their prices are so steep because they're choosing a 5-star hotel
Right.
with this convention center, where if you found just a city that had a decent sized convention center with surrounding hotels,
Mm-hmm.
people would still be willing to come.
Right.
Or
Right.
even if, even if you did find a convention center that had a hotel, it's not the Gaylord, that wasn't necessarily five
Right.
stars, your
Yep.
prices would not be as steep neither, which
Yeah.
means you'd probably have more interest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like the amount of money that you are expecting to get for these, say you sell so small number, but say you sell 100 tickets at $350, you could have sold 300 tickets at $150.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yes, you want it to be small so it's not chaotic and crazy, but at the same time, like, you want people to come, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Not
Yeah.
everybody's sitting on an extra $1,000 when you work in travel expenses and hotel and food
Mm-hmm.
and all of that, not even including the books that they're going to buy.
Yeah. And that was the thing. It was like, when I finally sat down and did all the calculations, I myself spent $2,000-ish
Yeah.
on, between, and that was, I got good deals on my stay and on my flights, but that was between tickets, books, what little I did spend, pennies,
Yeah.
because between my round trip flights and my stay, I barely spent $115.
Oh, nice.
So when I say I got a steal, I mean I got a steal.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those, it worked out well, but still, like, between tickets, food, Uber fees, Lyft fees, whatever I chose that
Mhm.
day, and then the books that I spent there, on there, and pre-orders, you're still looking at roughly $2,000, because food in Denver is not cheap.
No,
And at the
no.
Gaylord, it definitely wasn't. So it was like
Right.
$7 for a single bottle of water. And I'm like, I understand this is Colorado. I've been to Colorado before. But like, even in a city like this, $7, and how many people spent so much more than that because they had to pay full price for flights, and they chose to stay at the
Mhm.
Gaylord because they needed to not have the expense of,
Yep.
traveling back and forth between an outside hotel, and then, who didn't get a hotel shuttle or X, Y, and Z, because
Mhm.
the stay there was already expensive as is. And it was just like, there's no real reason in my mind that event has to be that expensive.
No, no, I
Because at this
wouldn't
point
think
you're
so.
trying to sell exclusivity, and it doesn't work like that. Like,
No.
authors, most any author that you speak to doesn't want to have exclusivity like that. Like,
Right.
they want to connect. They want to go
Mhm.
in, especially when you're making your authors. They have to pay for their stay. They still have to feed themselves and their
Yeah.
teams, and they had to pay massive table fees. So if you're taking massive table fees on top of massive ticket fees,
Yep.
even if you're feeding it right back into your event, you probably should reconsider where you're hosting your event.
Mhm.
Because even if it
Definitely.
can hold as many people as you want it to, does your event size, need to be that big?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, I definitely would not want to be one of those people to create one of these big events. Like, if I had, because like I'm up in northern Minnesota, if I lived down by the
Mm-hmm.
cities and there were more like localish bookshops and authors and stuff like that, I could see maybe doing a small one with a couple. Like I know SJ Tilly now moved. She's not a
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota girl now. Um, but like I could see inviting a couple of them and doing something small like that, but to the size of Denver or Vegas or Chicago, like I could never do that.
Yeah. It's just like, even then, you know, trying to host something in Denver is hard enough as is, because you're trying to get people to come up into the altitude. There
Yeah.
were quite a few people who got altitude sickness.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not good either.
I can't imagine hosting something that size. Just,
No. No.
the stress as is of putting on something that big and trying to have it go off without a hitch, and then it not working well for you and your team. And I mean, nothing's ever going to be flawless,
Right.
but at the same time, like, the amount of stress you have to be under when something doesn't go the way that you envisioned it, and you're catching all of this backlash, you would think that the thing to do would be to just own up to it. And
Right. My bad. I screwed up. I'm so sorry.
yeah, because isn't Jennifer Hartman the one who started a Polycon?
I
No,
think
or
so.
maybe it's Armin Trout.
I don't remember.
One of the two. Whoever did that one, whoever was the main organizer or host, one of the is an author, and they had some stuff go down, and I saw a public apology. She
Mm-hmm.
was like, it's absolutely on me. It is absolutely, this is something we should have seen. This is something we should have addressed. And it didn't happen. It didn't go off the way we wanted it to, but, we're going to do our due diligence to make sure that it doesn't happen again and
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z, something like that. Just that sits better with people, especially when you've got
Yeah.
readers. I'm going to be honest, readers are kind of wishy-washy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because it is so easy for someone to say one wrong sentence, an author or a reader, and for the entire community to just flip on
Oh,
them.
yeah. Yep. Yep.
I mean, because here recently we've seen authors attacking other authors for stealing, quote, quote, genre stories or
Mm-hmm.
baseline, tropes or, authors going undercover to be on other authors' teams to review bomb and readers not. I mean, all of the crazy things that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so easy for someone to flip on you, especially, and this is probably not the first time I've said this, but we live in a fickle world where people are a little bit more sensitive.
Yeah.
And I'm not meaning that to say like we shouldn't be addressing our feelings. I'm just meaning like we're sensitive to the point where we're actually aware.
Right.
So, and not just aware, but, saying something, standing up on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got like a 50-50 shot if someone actually cares that they've said something and done something to offend someone else. And then another one where others are just like, that's a you problem, which not a wrong statement, but if you had a hand in it,
Yep. Oh, yeah. And that's like, I've heard recently about some different authors and things going down. And it's like, okay, I haven't myself done any investigation into this. So I'm not ready to be like, nope. I'm done. I'm never going to read these books. I'm not, whatever. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I'm going to think twice before I want to support you until I do my own research and find out like, oh no, you are trash, or, well, that was taken out of context or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if more people did that, things wouldn't be as wishy-washy.
Yeah. Well, and I also feel like that has a lot to do, like, I haven't ever named this situation, but we're just going to go for it, like with the Blue Nose situation.
Yeah.
If statements were made in a certain place that was not necessarily 100% public and it's being dragged through all other outlets of the community, there may not be a way for the rest of us to do our research. So we're standing on, accountability of someone who we saw doing our research, and we can't actually see what actually happened. So we're just going to, all of a sudden we're boycotting, and we don't know if, I don't ever want to sound like this, and I'm not saying anything like that, but we don't know if what was said was actually true.
Right.
Because we didn't see it. And that's one of those things is I'm not meaning to sound like, they're lying or they said it just to spin a story, but there are people who are like that.
Oh, 100%.
And it's so easy to take information out of a story and not have the context, and it leads you down a different way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there is also a certain point of, you have to have a certain level of maturity and understanding to know that it's very easy for that to happen.
Yeah.
And awareness of, okay, for example, one of our MomCom team had partnered with them for her book. And it was just one of those, they've already been paid. There's nothing now, that she can do to fix that situation.
Right.
Because we're not going to ask her to pay for a whole new narration.
Yep.
Because how much did she come out of pocket for that to begin with because of who it was?
Yeah. Yeah,
so
exactly.
Then, deciding to not listen anymore isn't really fixing the issue.
No.
All it's doing is hurting the author who had no idea.
Yep.
Who wouldn't have had any idea.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah, there's definitely a mob mentality with any large group. And I think that is important too, to realize that we don't, there's, what is that saying? There's your side, my side, and the truth.
Yep.
And taking everything that you see, everything that you hear, and realizing that it can be spun 1,000 different ways.
Mm-hmm. And typically, when you're looking at it, your side, my side, and the truth, typically pieces of both sides are part of the truth.
Oh, yeah. My truth is different than your truth.
Mm-hmm. There's almost always something left out. Like you have to remember when you go back into grade school ages, how telephone worked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Something the very first statement from the beginning is never the same by the time you get to the end.
No. No.
And that's just the power of rephrasing. That's the power of different minds, the way people think.
Yeah.
It's just so imperative to be careful.
Yeah. And that's why I like being in the author street teams and hype groups and things, because you get to participate with the authors and you get to know them.
Yep.
Like whether they're in there a lot and participating or not, you still kind of get to know who they are and the people that they have around them. And that, I mean, not everybody can do that. Not everybody wants to do that. But that's really helped me in and even just on Facebook groups where the authors are high participants in the groups. Those are helpful too, because to me, how you act with your fans says everything I need to know about you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I have the pleasure of working with an indie author in Owens, and she is one of those, tougher than I ever expect anyone to be. She's absolutely amazing, and I've never run into a situation where she is so down that she won't have a full-on conversation with you. She's got this great attitude all the time. She can take feedback and criticism like it is nothing. Yeah. She would prefer you be hard on her and give her the truth than to just gloss over it. And same goes with Daphne Elliott. She wants to know the truth. Yeah. And that woman is a can of sunshine.
Oh, gosh. I know.
I got to meet her. And she was like can of sunshine. And her team that was with her.
Yeah.
Was her family. And I got to meet them and they recognized my name just from a pre-order. And then when we got back to the table, they recognized my face. Oh. And then I told her my Instagram handle and she was like, oh my gosh, I know you. And I was like, I know you. And we had this moment. And, it says a lot of, typically this is about what parents are important or think are important whenever they get into schools. This is especially when you get into college, about being a number versus being a name, and being a face.
Exactly.
And whenever you get to work, I do agree with you. Whenever you get to work with an author like that, being able to be recognized, knowing that you've made part of their life, and you get to see the way that they light up, especially when you finally get to meet them in person. Meeting Daphne was, probably my entire highlight.
Yeah.
I got to meet Jillian Lyota. I got to meet Elle Thorpe. I got to meet C.R. Jane and so many others, but just those off of everyone else was just like putting a face with the name and getting to actually interact with their personality. And of course, like when you're in a situation like that, you're turned on. Yeah. Like your social meter is 100. You're forcing it to be 100 if it's not already there. But it was just like that. Pieces of their actual personality are not, they're full there in full force.
Yep.
So, and I think that says a lot about them is whenever an author works up the courage to actually get to a signing and meet some of their people face to face. It doesn't just impact us as readers. Like obviously most of the time, if you're a reader and you get to go hang out and you get to go say hi and meet them, and it's going to make your day. You're going to be on cloud nine for probably a few weeks. And even now, like just reliving it, I'm on cloud nine. Just, interacting with Daphne was just like that. And Jillian too. But, knowing that I've had an impact on them as well, that they recognize my name and my face, or my Instagram handle, which was absolutely kind of crazy. She was like, "Oh," but yeah, like we have. My boss said this not too long ago. She's a massive reader too, and she was like, "We forget that we put normal people who have their job as an actor or a writer or a CEO. We put them on a pedestal."
Mm-hmm.
And they're just human. They're human like we are.
Yep.
But we're so accustomed to putting them on a pedestal because of what they accomplish that we forget that, they're exactly like us.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of the time they have a family, they go through their woes, and we impact them just as much as they impact us.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not to say that we need to know everything that goes on in their lives.
Oh, no, yeah.
But like, I love reading Daphne's newsletters and like, oh, my mom writes romance books and you should have these on your shelves. And like those things, it's just like, it gives you such, it makes them human.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying that, again, they don't have to tell us everything that goes on in their lives, but even sharing those little glimpses into their everyday can go so far.
Oh, yeah. I think that's all I've got.
Well, it was wonderful to talk with you. This was
so much fun.
Little fun thing.
Everyone gets so nervous, and I'm like, please don't be nervous. It's just me.
Yeah.
I'm really just like a massive nerd, and I just want to chat.
Well, and talking about one of my favorite things, why not?
Of course. And we'll have fun. We'll crack jokes, or we'll try.
Yeah.
And sound special. Alrighty, ma'am.
All right. Well, thank you. It was a fun time.
Thank you. I had a great time.